All right, what's up, everybody? This is Jamie Cain with the channel Unfiltered. As always, talking about how emerging technology is affecting the outcomes of MSPs and the outcomes they deliver, more importantly, to their clients. I am joined today by the founder of Handover, Lewis Williams, who is currently participating in the Pitch It competition by ConnectWise. Lewis, excited to have you and have the conversation today. If you wouldn't mind giving a real quick introduction to who you are, and then we'll jump into it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jamie. I'm Lewis. I'm 18, born in Birmingham, the UK one, not Alabama, and founder of Handover. I built it because I was working full time as a technical project manager at an MSP, and I spent hours on reports that should have taken minutes.
What was the moment you realized MSP reporting was broken up to build a company around it? Was it just those time you realized, man, like this shouldn't be taking me as nearly as long as it does, or what was that realization?
Yeah, so I think the realization was I had an internal weekly meeting that I'd do, and essentially it was asking, the engineers what's the latest on this project and updating that spreadsheet. I'd send out an email to the internal guys with what to do this week, and then also emails to the clients that could take up to 10 hours a week, some weeks. And obviously, that's a lot of billable hours that are written off when really that can be automated. We used Halo, which has an open API. And I just thought, you know what, let me give it a go. Let me see what I can build with this, see if it can automate those emails and the Excel docs and all the stuff I need to put in the PSA every week because it was so repetitive and mundane. So I started working on that at this same kind of time. I also spoke to a few, PMs through LinkedIn and so forth, and they also said, yeah, it takes up to 10 hours a week or 3 hours a day and stuff like that, which is a lot of hours that are written off.
In your mind, why is it important for the invisible work to become visible for MSPs?
Yeah, so I suppose it's kind of showing the clients what goes into it. Obviously, it's very easy to just do a project and go, all right, here you go, it's done. If you're sending those updates every day, every 2 days, every week, whatever it may be, they kind of see what goes into it a little bit more. Um, it's really good for building kind of your client relationship, which really matters in today's world in the MSP space. So basically it's really important to kind of show what you guys have been doing and keeping them regularly updated so they essentially know you're not procrastinating as well.
But why is that important though? Like obviously, like inherently, we know it's important to keep your clients up to date. We know it's important to communicate the value that you're driving. But in your perspective, why is it? I'll ask it this way. It seems like it's more important than ever to let your clients know the value that you're delivering in the channel. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, so I've seen it a lot with MSPs at the moment that they're shifting their focus away from kind of um, making sure that the technical work is up to scratch. And I think the main idea behind that is every MSP can do the technical work. They can do the tickets, they can do the projects simply. The one difference might be the resolution times, but fact is they can all do the technical work. The difference is, and customers have seemed to kind of stay with companies based on their relationships at the companies essentially. So it's important to kind of add a bit more to it than just completing the project. You've got to
Do
build
you
that.
think, sorry,
Go on.
do you think that's because the this it you because the old selling point of MSPs used to be look at our response times, our SLAs are better, we're faster, right? We have a better technology stack, et cetera, et cetera. It seems today, look, from an outsider's perspective that has come into the channel. I've been in the channel for almost a year now, right? And operating with MSPs and learning like I'm drinking through a darn fire hose, right? At the end of the day, it seems like, well, I'll say it this way. For me, it became increasingly obvious that MSPs cannot, if they are today, they should switch how they're competing. I think most of them realize this. You're not competing on stacks, right? At the end of the day, I said this in another episode of the channel Unfiltered just recently with another pitch it competitor. Like you're competing on so much more than what you bring in your tech stack because everyone's tech stack is different companies, but at the end of the day, they're doing very similar things. Now that doesn't mean that they're delivering the same value. There's better stacks than others, right? There's companies that deliver better outcomes, all that. But at the end of the day, the MSP client doesn't care about any of that. They care about the value that you're delivering to them. Your stack is irrelevant at that point, frankly. And coming from somebody that most of my family are small business owners, right? That I don't even know if they've ever worked with MSPs. I mean, I'd be shocked if they hadn't, right? All I know is that if you went to my uncle to sell him your MSP service and he runs his automotive shop, I can promise you he does not care about your tech stack. What he does care about is making sure that his operation is not it doesn't go belly up for more than 2 minutes. Like that's what he really cares about at the end of the day. How are in your mind from what you're seeing in the space, right? You've been in it since you were 16. We were talking about that before the recording, right? In your mind, what is the value that MSPs, if they're not already, should be talking about with their clients or prospective clients?
Yeah, you're exactly right on a few things there. Obviously, your family members at the automotive shop, they don't care about what stack they're running. They care about their uptime and the operational efficiency of the business. I'd also say, there's no point going and selling your MSP as, one of a kind or anything. You can find four MSPs that can do what you do. The difference is, you know, how much do you care about your clientele, and you know, what does he gain from going with you versus another MSP? And that's where the client relationship part really comes into it. Um, uh, and I suppose it's kind of shifted from, just resolution times, telling them, oh, we can fix your tickets and do this within 2 minutes, to a bit more than that as well. We can provide these recommendations and we can do this, and it's became a lot more than just an MSP, a managed service provider, and just resolving tickets when they come about.
In your seat as a project manager, have how have you seen your role evolve since you began?
Well, when I began, it was mainly, even our MSP, we would just solve the project, solve the tickets, and that would be it. Um, However, now, I mean, it's a lot more, there's a lot more regular updates. Um, Even from me, I mean, at the start, I wouldn't have to send as many updates. Now clients really care where things are up to, um, and they want to know that as frequent as possible, really.
So they
And they
expect
want,
more communication than they had previously.
yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. I mean, when I first started, and that was only 2 years ago, um, I think companies seem to not really email you throughout a process. You could kind of, in a way, get away without, um, sending updates because they wouldn't ask for them. And they wouldn't complain about the times that things were done or anything like that, as long as you didn't really make something overdue. Um, Whereas now, if you go 3 days without emailing the company, they can be sending you emails or what's happening with this and that sort of thing. And I think it's really down to their expectations. Maybe they've been with an MSP before who have started doing this thing to kind of get away from the competition. So their expectations have really grew, and maybe part of that is as well due to AI. I mean, resolution times as a whole are pretty fast for most things now. um, so it's, you can't just have a good resolution time. There has to be more to it.
Yeah, I think the MSP client today is obviously aware of the gains that are occurring because of automation and AI and are assuming either are assuming or being told by their MSPs that those things are being adopted to deliver better outcomes, faster, resolutions, et cetera, right? So I think that I mean, even outside the MSP space, there was a stat that was done, I mean, years ago that said I think it was 80 something odd percent of clients expect immediate resolution today, which is
Yeah,
really untenable if you want to work off a strictly human-based system, regardless of AI or not. Like something had to be done about those expectations, right? Technology had to meet people where their expectations were. Whether right or wrong is a different conversation, right? But one of the things that my background is SaaS sales, right? So for most of my career, I was in an account executive seat, in a professional sales environment, getting our software in front of clients and then getting these deals closed. And it made some other stops around the way, but mostly software is where I've really lived, right? In technology. And one of the things that I always saw when handing my deals off to account management and then experience and support was clients expect things to go wrong. I think I might have also said this in a different episode, but it's important, so I'll say it again. They know that things aren't always going to be perfect. They expect things to happen. They expect bugs to pop up or downtime to occur. What they don't expect is lack of communication. And from my experience, that was the thing that always caused churn in deals. Was not that something that went wrong? I mean, if it went wrong enough, then yeah, no matter how good the communication was, the product just sucked or didn't deliver, then they're gonna churn, right? But more often than not, it was I saw this firsthand in my role. Hey, product is fine. When something does go wrong, I'm left in the dark for weeks and I'm not hearing a darn thing, right? In MSP land, you can't leave someone in the dark for weeks, but the equivalent of that is leaving someone in the dark for a day or two, in my humble opinion, right? Like their communication absolutely is expected, right? And I think that's what you're kind of saying is there are these heightened expectations where you used to kind of get away from not being able to communicate with your clients nearly enough. Now, if you don't do that, you're not delivering you're not delivering as much value as the MSP that makes communication a part of their core offering to the end user. I don't know if you have any additional thoughts on that.
Yeah, I agree. And obviously, with these heightened communication needs with the clients comes other things. Obviously, let's say to get that update to a client every day, it takes 10 minutes, which is fairly reasonable. You know, you've got to go and speak to your engineer. You've got to get on a call with him, ask him where it's up to. You've got to send that email across. You've got to word it great. All these things matter. Um, if that costs 10 minutes for every client, and you might have 10 clients, maybe you don't get 10 requests a day, but if you did get 10 requests a day on a day, that's an hour and a half of your day gone just on those, update emails. So your time can really cut a rate quite fast, with these heightened needs of the clients. And it's not on the clients, it's on the automation of that update sending. Why can't it be automated? It shouldn't take an hour and a half to send a few emails that really aren't that complex emails to send.
Yeah, I that makes me I want to kind of go back over to your company Handover real fast. In a singular sentence, what is the outcome that Handover is delivering or the pain that it's solving? Obviously, project management, like I get that, and there's a lot of different things that it can do, but at the end of the day, what is the outcome and the pain that is being delivered and then resolved with Handover?
So it's mainly automating client reporting essentially. Obviously, it kind of streamlines those Excel docs and those emails and the ticket notes that you have to write in your PSA every day. Um, that's a real pain point I've found for project managers like myself and other guys I've spoke to. It's such a faff. You've got to go into, Outlook, then you've got to go back into your PSA, you've got to go into Excel. You're doing that constantly. It's hours that don't need to be used on it. So the pain point it's solving really is those billable hours a day, um, used on these manual, mundane, repetitive tasks that essentially could be done for delivery, but are instead done for admin.
Is that in your mind, right? So that's the pain and the functional outcome that's delivered, but is the business outcome that is made possible through, or at least it's made more possible, is it the increased ability to do these things that MSPs have not traditionally had the time to do, like this communication we're talking about and other things? Or in your mind, what are you actually trying to drive towards and the MSP evolve to by using your product?
Well, I suppose it's a win-win for both the MSP and the client, and I'll get into that in a sec. But especially for the MSP, going back to the whole relationship point, if you can get those emails sent across way quicker and not be using your PM's time up to send those, updates across. Maybe the updates are even better quality because you've got all that data sat in Handover. That looks a lot better for the customer. But the other reason it's good for both, the customer and the MSP is if you're doing a project essentially, you've got to bill those hours that the PM is gonna have doing that project. Now for the MSP, that in a way could be a bad thing because obviously you're not making as much money, but it also means you're doing the project quicker because they don't have to be doing that. So that time that you've managed to cut away can then be used on another project. That PM can have his hands free for say 2 or 3 more projects in that time. So you're making more money, but then also for the client as well. If that project can be done quicker, obviously that's better for the client. The clients want the projects to be done as quick as possible. So from a client and an MSP point of view, it's a win-win. Um,
I think that also changes the model a little bit, or could potentially change the model, right? Because there's two different ways to look at this. It's either I can bill hourly, and the more hours I work, the more I get paid. Or you could fundamentally change the MSP model because if your clients know, which I think most people do, that time is money, and the faster I can do things, actually, the more you should pay. Express typically costs more because time is valuable, right? You could look at this model in MSP and say, yeah, like we have projects are the time to project finishing is shorter and we can get more of those done. So it kind of breaks even because we're getting more projects done, or because we save more time than any other MSP in the market because of this outcome that we've delivered, we can actually charge more because time is at a premium, especially today. I don't know if you agree with that. If you think that's where MSPs should be looking from, like I said, from the outsider's perspective, I think that seems pretty obvious. It's actually in my opinion, a better way to probably deliver or to drive revenue for the business because at the end of the day, that's a premium that you're now delivering as opposed to not the projects weren't a premium before, but it's more than just a project now. It's now time savings, which is drastically more valuable than just getting this thing done, right?
no, exactly. You're exactly right. And I mean, another thing is obviously going back to this whole point of when we're trying to sell to a customer and get them to buy from us as an MSP. Obviously that an MSP they do the same thing as 10, 20 other MSPs really. That, as I mentioned before, they can all do the technical project, but this kind of gives you another stat you can put in front of them and kind of sell to them that way, in the sense of go and ask other people how long it would take to do this project. See how long they say it'll take them. It might take us 2 weeks less. So not only what you mentioned, but also when you're trying to get a new client on board, and you're putting these stats in front of them, you can say that you can do projects a lot quicker, really.
Yeah. Yeah, and I want to go back to something else that you said because I think there's something that needs to be talked about in this space is that it's not just that communication is at a premium because once again, as this, and I just had another conversation with somebody else in the pitch it. A lot of converse, obviously, it's in the same vertical, in the same space, same channel. So there's gonna be some overlap in the conversations, right? But communication has come up in my last couple of interviews that I've done as something that needs to happen more than MSPs, and because of AI, automation, emerging technologies, or just better software products in general, that's becoming more of a reality. And then it becomes something like, and I say this as like an AI native founder, right? That our company is AI native that services MSPs. Eventually, AI, because it's so widely used, becomes commoditized. It's kind of already there, right? Eventually, we communicate more is going to become commoditized also for MSPs, right? And it's just the communications is going to become a mandatory feature of your offering. What I think is going to set MSPs apart, and you said something I can't remember exactly what it was that made me think of this, is it's not just about more communication, but it's better communication at a more frequent rate. And in your mind, what does better communication look like for an MSP to a client? Not just telling them we're getting the things done, but how you deliver that communication, what they get out of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the quality of communication matters a lot. If you're sending a status report to a client on a project or a ticket, and all you're writing is an email, that won't look as good as if somebody's sending it with, an Excel doc attached or something like that. The more detail you can put in it and the more you can give them, really is starting to matter to these, these customers. They don't want to be left in the dark with anything. So, the more you can give them, the better. But obviously, you don't want to sit there and make an Excel doc for every customer whenever you've got to send a report. So that's where this comes in that sense as well.
Yeah, but what about, I mean, details matter and the type of communication matters, but a lot of times these end users are, not even a lot of times, most of the times, I'd say 99% of the time, they are non-technical customers. There's a reason they're working with an MSP, right? How do you meet them? How do you both deliver better communication and more detailed communication, but at a level that they can understand and that they don't glaze over when they read the email, right?
Yeah, so I mean, essentially the best way to do it, and it's something that kind of the guys, engineers and PMs kind of practice, I suppose, is technical versus business jargon. So if you're speaking to an office manager or something, you always want to use your business jargon, not there's no point putting technical words in there. They're not going to know what a VM or a VPN or anything is. So you essentially, in a way, have to dumb it down for them. Um, but you can do that while still keeping it detailed. You can say where it's up to, how long you think it's going to take, the impact that you expect it to have on the business, all that kind of stuff. It can still be detailed without having to include the technical jargon to these non-technical people.
I do think that proposes an interesting challenge for MSPs in dumbing it down, but also increasing the quality of that communication. I think one of the things that's often conflated to length to quality, meaning the more communication you give somebody, the better it is, which I don't think is true. At least not in a lot of cases. There's a saying by Mark Twain that really stuck with me. I think I heard it in college. That said, I didn't have enough time to write you a short letter, so I wrote you a long one instead. Because it takes time and thinking
Yeah.
it's not about dumbing things down. It's about simplifying things in layman's terms. And even frankly, like even from technical user, that skill set is probably, I don't know how you feel about this, but like obviously there's the cases where most of the time for MSPs, you need to speak at a very highly technical level so everybody understands the nuances of what's occurring. But as MSPs also continue to grow in this consultative style business to their end users, right? There is going to require, in my mind, speed of communication, not only between the client and the MSP, but speed of communication between MSP technicians, engineers, product managers, and so on and so forth. And that simplification of communication while delivering detail is going to be required in my mind. I could be way off of all of this, so feel free to disagree with me. It's your prerogative to do that. Once again, these are all things that I'm learning and hearing from the outside and making my own conclusions on where the space is. But I don't know if you have any thoughts on that as well.
No, I mean, you're exactly right. Obviously, we're in a kind of era and a society now where minutes matter. Um, AI is a massive thing and it can do things in minutes. So when you have a multitude of minutes being spent on these things such as opening the PSA, writing an internal note for the engineer to read, then that engineer has to go and action that note, then he has to write a note back. This all takes time and it really adds up. So if you can even minimize those minutes throughout a working week, that can equal hours, right? Just from that navigation that it takes. Um, so yeah, it does really matter in the grand scheme of things. And I mean, every way you can minimize time being spent equals money being saved, really.
Well, that leads me to my next question. As AI starts handling more of the routine work, right? Like the minutes being saved, because I mean, like originally as AI and automation kind of came into the channel, and it still is. I think we're at the very beginning of AI adoption. I don't think that we're even at the crest of it, or even in the middle of this journey. I think we're still very early in the channel with AI adoption, regardless of what the event circuit would have you believe, right? But with that being said, the massive gains, of okay, the things that took me hours are now taking minutes, right? And as you adopt more technology, to your point, the minutes start to matter even more, right? It's the seconds between those tasks that become incredibly valuable and become a leveraged opportunity to set yourself apart in the market for end users, right? And trying to show your value as an organization. So I say that as a preface to this question of um, as AI starts handling more of the routine work, what actually becomes more valuable inside an MSP organization?
Well, I think obviously the kind of idea from AI at the moment is automating kind of the admin, and especially with Handover, it's the admin that we want to automate so people can focus on the delivery. Um, Obviously, naturally, that means the delivery is the valuable part. Um, so to an MSP, the difference will be who can deliver best. Um, Obviously, the admin work that includes the communication. So if people are using AI to do the admin work and communicate, then the delivery does matter. But that's in a situation where everyone's using AI to communicate, which unfortunately some people don't stay ahead of the curve. So really, it's kind of automating the admin that's important. Um, so you have more time to deliver and really more time on the job that it should be.
Um, Using your young brain because you're only 18 years old, right? I can say that now because I'm in my 30s, so I'm allowed to call you a young whippersnapper, you know. Well, as much as that hurts me because I still feel like I'm 18 until I hurt my back in the gym and then I realize that I'm not.
I'll do that
But
too.
yeah, yeah, it takes you. I've been nursing mine for like 2.5 weeks. You get over it in like a day or two. I
Yeah, okay.
But it's all right. You'll get there one day, man. But w with all that being said, what are some areas? And look, man, this is all speculation at this point, right? Which makes this conversation interesting, in my opinion. What are the areas that AI won't or shouldn't touch in an MSP?
Well, I mean, AI really can't do the delivery work efficiently. I mean, I've tried myself to use AI to answer questions, the deep technical questions, and it can point you in the right direction and that kind of thing, but it can't do those tasks start to finish. Um, I mean, your customer service roles, for example, they're really in danger from AI. And that's kind of very similar to this admin work that, these PMs have to do at the moment. Um, but it will really struggle, I think, for many years to do that delivery work and the real technical work, because it's a lot more complex than anything else, really. Um, so yeah, it'll be the delivery work really that it struggles with. Um, but obviously, admin it's already been automated, right? As
But
our two companies have shown.
if if but let's say like hypothetically, right? Let's say that it could do that. Should it do that? Like if it could do the delivery, should it do the delivery?
I suppose that depends if we can get to a world where AI stops hallucinating. I feel like there's always going to be a percent chance that AI hallucinates, and if that's the case, you can't trust it to do your delivery work because one hallucination can send your entire business under. That's too much risk for something, you know, so unreliable in a sense. Um, Obviously, it's good at some tasks, those complex tasks. It still does hallucinate with, and again, we're not the AI engineers behind it. Also, it's hard for us to know exactly if they can ever get to a stage where it's not hallucinating. But there's no sign at the moment really that we can get that to 100%.
So it sounds like what you're saying is even if it could, it shouldn't because human judgment still needs to be a factor. Because that's essentially what you're talking about. Hallucinate, like when you give it to AI, human judgment by default is then taken out of that equation. Not that it should be. Like my view of AI and even our company, right? Like we're very public about this, is that human in the loop human first AI solutions, right? Ones that allow you to free up your capacity to use your human judgment and empathy and the things that in human connection, things that AI cannot or at least should not do, right? And so what I'm hearing you say is when you hand that complexity off, you're taking out one of the most valuable parts of working with a human being, which is their judgment, right? Where AI can hallucinate, doesn't use the judgment, and it can obviously send a cascading negative effect, right?
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, AI doesn't have empathy or emotion. And I think if it does get to a point where it can and it can manipulate that emotion, I think we've got bigger fish to fry than the
Yeah,
delivery of
amen to that.
projects, right?
Yeah, amen to that, brother. Yeah, that's
So
yeah, we don't want that, man.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, but no, I mean, yeah, human judgment is always going to be important, and I mean, the fact is, if AI did get to a point where it was doing, a project from start to finish, you know, the emailing and also the delivery, that kind of thing, um, that means they're working fully off facts, whereas sometimes, you need a bit different to just pure facts. Maybe it's a new customer and you want to do a bit extra to kind of make them happy and win them over a little bit. AI can't do all that stuff,
Yep.
unless you prompt it to, which is where, you're speaking about the human first AI. That's exactly, what I agree with. I think you always do need a bit of human thought behind it, and that's kind of what I believe mine of your products do pretty well.
We're trying to build the Iron Man. I can speak for myself, but I think I could. We're trying to build the Iron Man suit, not Ultron, in my humble opinion. So any
Yeah.
Marvel fans out there will get that. If you're an OG Marvel comic fan like I am, not just the movies, you'll definitely understand that. But the movies help as well. So well, Lewis, to wrap things up, where can people find Handover? What are the MSPs that you feel like your ICP who could get the most value out of using the product? And then where can they find you and connect with you if they want to?
So you can find Handover at gethandover.uk. You can find me, I mean, you can email me at hello@gethandover.uk, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn. Happy to speak about, whatever you want to speak about. And sorry, I missed the last question. What was that? Sorry.
The other question was what kind of MSPs or what kind of problem MSPs are looking to solve, that kind of MSP, who should contact you in order to use Handover, right?
I think if you've listened to this and it's resonated that, you as a PM or as a business is spending a lot of time on all that admin, mundane, repetitive work, those tasks that you feel don't need to be done manually. It doesn't need that human judgment as we've just spoke about behind it. Um, Definitely have a look at Handover, because at the end of the day, it will save you hours, if not weeks of time, um, that didn't need to be spent, and save your PMs and your engineers and your entire business a lot of time spent on those tasks, so they can focus on the delivery of your projects and your tickets, and keeping your customers happy as well.
Awesome, man. Well, Lewis, thanks for making the time. Good luck in the Pitch It by ConnectWise competition. Rooting for you, man. Everybody, I highly recommend go and checking out Handover to connect with Lewis. And as always, thank you for listening and watching, the channel Unfiltered. And we'll catch you guys next time. Thank y'all.